Welcome to the Golf Improvement Podcast, episode 168.
Welcome to the podcast for golf lovers and enthusiasts who are looking to take their games to new heights. Dedicated to custom club fitting, short game improvement, and effective practice to improve your golf game. This is the Golf Improvement Podcast with your host, Tony Wright.
Hello, this is Tony Wright from Game Improvement Golf in Oak Ridge, Tennessee with the Golf Improvement Podcast, dedicated to sharing useful information on professional club fitting, short game improvement, and effective practice techniques. I create exceptional golf clubs. You shoot lower scores. I have actually been anticipating that this interview would happen for more than a year. And my friend John Dranschak actually predicted it would. I'm delighted today to bring you an interview with Mike Bauman, the 2020 Masters Professional Long Drive Association champion from Galena, Ohio, and John Dranschak, a professional club fitter with Dead Solid Perfect Golf in Columbus, Ohio. They share information about their extremely successful partnership, and you're really going to enjoy this one.
www.gameimprovementgolf.com.
Hello, this is Tony Wright with episode 168 of the Golf Improvement Podcast. And my goodness, I have been looking forward to doing this one ever since John Dranschak first told me that Mike Bauman one day was going to win the Professional Long Drive Championship in the Masters Division. Well, I've got Mike Bauman, who's with us today. He's the Professional Long Drive Association 2020 Masters Champion. I believe that's correct, and he's from Galena, Ohio. And I've got a friend, 10 years at least, John Dranschak, who's a professional club fitter with Dead Solid Perfect Golf in Columbus, Ohio. So, John and Mike, this is really, it's a little different, but it's going to be great to do. So I'm looking forward to it. Well, Mike, I don't usually start out kind of this way. I usually ask people about people's stories, but I used to love to watch all the long drive stuff, and I just forgot about it last year with everything going. But I mean, talk about the day you won the event a little bit. Share, some of the goings on inside and how you felt, when you were standing there and, kind of realized you had a good chance, whatever you want to share about that day.
Yeah, absolutely. It's amazing to be a national champion at anything, probably something everyone has dreamed about. But for the day it was a long time coming, a lot of preparation, many, many years, 14 world championships I've competed in and have been there very close many, many, many times. Just couldn't seem to, get over the hump. But that day was exceptional. I kind of started slow, but with John's help, honestly, a lot of guidance from John, almost as a mentor as well as a club fitter for me, has been huge. And he would always say, just keep doing the same things. Just keep doing the same things. And so as the day started, I kind of started out, kind of shaky for me. But I just kept improving as the day kept going on. So my distances just kept getting longer and longer. The wind was right at us, and no roll whatsoever. So the distances were low, but, everybody was comparable. So you knew it was going to be, very close. Tough field. There was 3, I believe, world championships in our field, world champions in our field. So exceptional, to win at this level, it's very, very difficult. But hit well, kept doing well. I have won things before, but winning something this big is, I wouldn't say it's life-changing, but it certainly changes your attitude towards everything. And I hit fantastic. As the day went on, I just kept getting better, more comfortable, more and more comfortable. And just kind of got it done.
Well, we'll go a little into your story here for a minute too, and then talk about your relationship with John. But, I read an article about you, and you've been doing this, like you said, a long time, maybe 20 years, right? What kind of got you? Yeah. What kind of drew you into it? I mean, just loving to hit it long, or what was it?
Yeah, I knew at a young age I could hit it pretty far. I mean, I had funny stories with my mom when I would play in her corporate outings. They'd say, bring your kid, Joan, and so I go and play. And there was people one time that, couldn't believe I hit a ball so far. They did announcements after it was over, and I was walking up to get the thing. And this is a true story. A guy, a grown adult like us now, says, "There's no way the kid hit it that far. That sign was 70 yards in front of everybody." And the guy in our group stood up and he said, "No, sir. He actually backed the sign up. It went through the rough and he pulled it back to the end of the fairway." So
what a great story.
So I got my, dozen pinnacles at the time, to win it. But yeah, I could always kind of hit it far. I was a very good athlete, in a lot of different sports. And I became a PGA golf professional, was that for 8 years. So I had a good golf swing, just kind of had to improve the speed up just a little bit. I improved it from the low end of like a low 120s probably, all the way up to where I've had it up to, just under 150 miles per hour before. I've had a 151 before, 218 ball speed. So, yeah. So, you can just keep improving on it and get better and better. But that's how I got into it. Was I would play in golf tournaments in the SOPGA, the Southern Ohio PGA, and we go play golf courses, and people started like laughing because I was asking what side of the pin the green, the pin was on the green, and they were like, "It's like 380," and I go, "Yeah, I know. I need to know which side to miss the green on," and they're like, "What? Wait, that makes no sense." So, and I mean, these were great golfers too, and they were like, they couldn't fathom where I was hitting it. So it was a gift. It's a gift. God gives everyone gifts. And, this was mine. And, my goal was to use it the best that I possibly could. But yeah, I kind of knew at a young age I could hit it far. I remember when I was 12 and 13 at those ones, hitting it right around the 300-yard mark, some of them over on faster fairways and stuff. So, yeah, I mean, you either have it or you don't, I believe.
Yeah. Now, John, how about you? You've been at club fitting, I believe, well, at least since I got into it maybe 14 years ago, maybe a little longer. Talk about what kind of drew you into it.
Well, I'm left-handed, and so back in the 80s, I'm probably dating myself, but back in the 80s, there weren't a lot of left-handed clubs out there, and I got a catalog from Golfworks, Golfsmith. Yeah. And then I eventually got one from Golfworks, but it had left-handed stuff in there, so I bought their book on how to build clubs and started building stuff for myself, and I ruined a lot of shafts with a pipe cutter before I figured out how to do it correctly. But then around 2000, I decided, maybe I should do this as when I retire as a second business. And so I got involved with Tom Washon, as you know. Yeah. And started going to the PCS meetings and the AGCP meetings. And when I finally did retire in 2010, I took early retirement and started my business, and it's been good ever since.
And I think go ahead.
By the way, Tony, I don't have it. Mike has it, but I don't.
Oh, you don't hit it far, right?
No, I don't hit it far.
but you know how to help somebody hit it far, which is what we're gonna, or some of the pieces. Hey, maybe you're a perfect match, right? There you go. Well,
we are.
Yeah. How did the two of you first connect? Because, and I know some of the things that you introduced to Mike are not the normal golf shafty stuff that everybody has, but you have some knowledge that not everybody has. So, well,
actually, I got a call from Mike many years ago.
Yeah,
and he's not going to be happy that I'm sharing this, but it was
too funny.
It was a legitimate question for someone who, was not a club fitter, and he asked me. I think he was with a different company than he wound up with when he won, but he asked me, "They're sending me these driver heads, and the lie angle is wrong." And he said, "Can you bend them?" And I said, "So they're titanium, right?" And he goes, "Yeah." And I said, "No, it just can't be done unless you want a bunch of broken heads." And then we didn't speak for several years, maybe 5 or 6, 7.
Oh yeah.
And then I'll let him talk about how he found me and some of our first conversations.
Yeah, it's I'm laughing the whole time as John's talking because I was trying to bend a titanium head, and clearly I learned you can't do it, even though we can laugh about it now.
Yeah.
But I didn't know. And at my sport, we have such strange setups, meaning the lofts we use are so low. And, people aren't very familiar with it. So I got a chance to talk to John, and we started going through this almost like an intelligent way of attacking a problem, meaning as someone who competes and trains really hard, you're looking for the best results. I mean, I don't think a golfer is any different, anybody. So we kept trying different things. We tried different heads. We tried different shafts and this. And so John kind of led me on to something that I always wondered is, look, what's the perfect shaft for me? What's the perfect setup? What is it? Like, this is ridiculous. I'm this good. I have these many free things given to me, but no one seems to be able to put it together for me. So it started on this realistic and honest journey of we didn't know where it was going to go. And he just kept advising me, let's try this. Let's test this shaft out. And then with Russ's stuff, the Fit for Golf, and with John had the machine, and we started testing shafts and learning about them. And it got to a point to where John would not tell me what the shaft characteristics were. And that was unbelievably helpful to me because you would think you'd want to know the knowledge. And the reality was he would just say, "Go hit it, Mike." And I would go hit it. And I'd come back, I go, "It felt like this, or it did this, or it did this." Okay. So we kind of cataloged it as we kept going through. And with that knowledge, we were able to basically draw, didn't we, John? We basically drew a graph line as to what would be my perfect shaft after we did all this. And ironically, it's exactly what we had drawn on that piece of paper, and it's what I won with. So if I didn't have John's help, would I have won? No, there's no way. I mean, there's 2 reasons I won. One is expertise and knowledge in shafts and club building, but 2, as I said before, great mentor. I mean, helped me read videos or watch videos, read books, very good mental kind of coach too. But club fitting, simply one of the best ones I've ever that I've ever come across. He's the best one. Great mentors too for him, but absolutely fantastic.
Now he shared with me too that your sense of feel is pretty amazing, and I do wonder, maybe you can talk about this. Is that the same with most of the people that are sort of, in the long drive world? I mean, certainly the tour guys, you think they have this kind of stuff, but he was amazed at how you could sense different things. And he didn't talk a lot with me, but he did mention some of that. Yeah.
Yeah, no. He's right. I mean, I don't know if it is or isn't. I mean, when I was a little kid, I pretty much never missed the middle of the club face, and I really didn't play a lot of golf. Like, I played no high school or college golf, but I could hit it in the middle, and being athletic, I could always kind of like pure the golf ball, not meaning it. So I would hit it left, I'd hit it right, but I could always hit it well, but I could feel it. I could literally feel in my hands, I'd be like, oh, that's going to be behind me at impact. And I'd come in the same way of like it kind of float right, or it would kick in the middle of the shaft, meaning maybe it was a little too tight, too early to me, and it would go to the left. And that was our way of doing it with feedback of my information was very good, because then we could apply it to a factual knowledge base of what we saw on graphs and what it was actually like. And when you could see it and then know it, oh man, it got fun, because we'd be like, this one's going to be close. And I go out and I'd finish first or second event. I go, well, let's fix this. And we'd fix that. And then bing, bing, bing. And all I did was just, I mean, the 3 years we've been working together, all I did, John, was basically go first and second for the last like 2.5 years. So, I mean, you know, once you meet the right person, but yeah, you got to repeat the swing first. But once the swing is repeatable, if you have some talent and some good feel, yeah, you know, it's nice. I mean, I don't want to like say anything great or brag to myself, but I'm lucky that I have that skill. But you have to have the knowledge behind you and what he had to, you know, to make it come to life, to be honest with you.
Yeah. John, share a little bit about your end of this whole thing too. And I know some of the tools that you use, but you could talk about them.
Yeah, well, first let me address what Mike said. He has an incredible sense of feel. I mean, we tested a bunch of different shafts, and the profiles were all over the map. And I'd give him a shaft, and he'd test it, and he'd tell me, okay, it's bending here and here, and I'd look at the profile and I'd go, my gosh, how do you know that? And it was amazing, because he had such feel that he could tell, you know, and some of them, you know, some of the shafts we tested had double bend points.
Mm.
And
Yeah.
he identified those. So it was amazing. And, you know, but when we started, we really didn't know what,
Nope.
where we were going to go, but he knew I had the machine, and he had shafts he wanted to try. And so he would get shafts, and I would put them on the machine and get the results.
And this is the EI profiling machine, right? You're talking about, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. Russ Ryden's Fit to Score EI profiling machine. And I would, you know, build the club, and then he would take it to the range, and assuming he had a range he wasn't thrown off of because he hit it so far.
Yeah.
True story. Very true story. Yeah.
But he would hit it, and then he would come back to me and say, you know, this isn't quite right, that isn't quite right. And he's correct. We, after maybe half a dozen shafts, we actually drew a curve, and that shaft didn't exist at that time. We had some that were close, but we drew a curve, and we kept that curve as our standard.
Yeah.
And we kept looking, and Mike worked with his head supplier and shaft supplier, and we kept getting shafts. And once Mike started doing really well, you know, the doors opened up. All of a sudden, the head suppliers and shaft suppliers are going, here, try this. Here, try this. Here, try this. So we got a bunch of shafts in. And so we continued to refine the model. We continued, you know, and he would give feedback, and they would give him another shaft.
Jeez.
And they got closer and closer and closer, and eventually, we got really close to what the perfect shaft was.
Now, Mike, did you ever, I mean, like way back in your past, you know, it's been in 20 years. Mm-hmm. Was there ever a shaft that felt that way? Or you were always sort of, I'm not going to say fighting it, but you're always wondering, right, back there. Was there one at one point that you thought, oh my gosh, wow. But you didn't know how to quantify it then, but.
Yeah, exactly. That's pretty much what it was like to me, because what ends up happening a lot of times is that you hit something, and what happens with long drive is that there's so many different like conditions when you're hitting as well.
Yeah.
So sometimes you need to hit it higher, sometimes you need to hit it lower, and those things. And no, I can tell you the answer would be no. I had some where I would hit them. In fact, I can tell you a great story. One year I was in the semifinals. They used to do 8 people and 8 people in the final, like 4 out of the 8 and 4 out of the 8. That would end up being your final 8 people for the World Championships. And I went up there, and I had at the time 6 drivers. And when I had the 6 drivers, I hit them all, and I cracked all of the faces on them. All of them. They were all cracked after like 7 rounds. And so I had to basically borrow one from somebody, and I grabbed it, and I don't know what the heck was in this shaft, but basically all I did was just hit nuclear bombs with it. And I just was like, oh my God, oh my God, oh my God. Like every time I saw it, I just destroyed it. And I was like, I need to find that. I need to find that.
Yeah.
And of course the guy disappears, and I can't ever find it again. And from that point on, that was, oh my God, that was like 12 years ago. And all I kept trying to do was find something, you know, that resembled that particular shaft. And I never could. And until I ran into John, until I truly, you know, took a real approach at it, like a real logistical, mathematical, logical approach at it, I really didn't have a chance at it. Because what they do, and it's really great, you know, when you're good at a sport, they hand you a bunch of shafts, they hand you a bunch of heads, here's your clothing, good luck. I mean, honestly, you know, here's a little bit of money, but good luck. And nobody had these machines. Nobody, you know, was willing to like go the extra mile. You just kind of would take 10 shafts and you just tip it more here and cut it off the butt here and add some weight here. And I'm telling you, that's exactly what it was like.
Yeah.
And it really sucked, because nobody had the technology to actually make it where it would work, you know, for everybody. And once John got it, once we started in on this, I mean, it just, the wins kind of kept coming, the getting close kept coming, and, you know, you could almost feel it coming, because I had made a post on Instagram, which was funny, because it was like, I was like 2nd and 3rd and 4th and 2nd. And I mean, I was just like sitting on the edge of everything. And then I finished 3rd in the world. And I wrote in the bottom of my Instagram post, I said, the wins are coming. That's what I wrote at the end of 2019. And all I did was just start winning everything, you know. So you can tell when you get that kind of confidence with a club in your hand, you know it's right. And John, tell the story of when you would help those guys, you know, the tour van stuff, when you'd hand them the club once, twice, and 3 times. Tell them that story, because that's exactly how kind of I am with long drive.
Yeah. Well, the other, let me back up a little bit and comment on what Mike just said. Part of the reason he came to me is because he had someone who was doing his clubs, and I guess they went out of business, and so he said, I want to take this shaft and put it in this head. So I pulled the shaft, and the tip was just destroyed. It had been it had been shimmed, and I'm surprised with his swing speed that the head didn't go flying down the range. But so, you know,
so it was like it was like a 350 head and a 335. Well, some reason it was like, some weird head.
It was Yeah, no, it was a 335 shaft and a 335 head, but the tip of the shaft had delaminated,
Oh, jeez.
and so he put a shim in there.
Oh, yeah.
So
we saw it all, right?
John? Yeah. So one of the things that we did early, or I did early on, is make sure his builds were good, and that was important, obviously, as you know, as a club fitter.
Yeah.
But when I spent some time at the time it was the nationwide tour at the Ohio State Golf Course with the UST rep. He invited me over, and we talked about a variety of stuff, and I still sell their shafts, but he would say, "Watch this," and he'd say, "Okay, watch this guy out in the range." The guy's gonna hand him a club, and he's gonna hit it, and if he turns around and hands it right back, the guy struck out. If he hits it the second time, he said he's probably got a chance. If he hits it the third time, that shaft will probably go in his bag. And that's kind of the way Mike was, is he knew right away within 2 or 3 hits. And what else he told me was, if it doesn't feel right, he won't hit it anymore, because he's so good that he'll start to modify his swing to fit the shaft, and that's not what he wants. He wants the shaft to fit his swing.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, that's what everybody should want, right? Yeah.
Yeah. The reality is John's right. It's I wouldn't say it's that I'm that good. It's just I built my swing for so much speed that it's a certain way, and it kicks kind of at a certain point. I know where I feel it on the bottom. And so when it would feel too heavy or it would feel too light or something, it was very odd, because I could tell as the club head was coming through, I was like, wow, that was really late, or that was really early, or that was this or that. And so, yeah, I didn't see any point to keep hitting it, because it was just, man, I'm working way too hard here. Yeah. This makes no logical sense to me. Why am I working so hard to do this? And, this here, you can have it back. One of those things.
Jeez. Well,
yeah, I spent a lot of time taking shafts and moving them between heads, and with we had 4 lofts, and we had we had 50, 60, 70 gram shafts, and we'd keep swapping them in and out until we found something that worked. And even when he won, because of the difference in conditions, he had different shafts and different heads so that he could match the heads and shafts up with the conditions. So if the grid was slow and he needed to, if he wasn't going to get any roll, he'd take something that he could hit it higher and carry it further, and vice versa. If the grid was fast, he could take a little lower loft and just smash it and get down as far as he could, and that was something that we worked on. Is he had the speed, but he didn't have the, I guess, discipline to keep it in the grid. And so we worked on kind of the mental aspect of just keep it in the grid. If you get beat, it's not the end of the world. Just put the pressure on the other guy. Put 2 or 3 good ones in the grid, and then, if the guy beats you, it was his day. But if you got in the grid and got one out there pretty good, chances are he's going to start thinking about that, and maybe he'll press.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's right. It's a very, I don't know if they fully understand the mental games that go on in long drive. There's a lot to it. And I believe what John probably helped me the most at was, the club stuff is good, but the mental part of it is unbelievably important. I mean, you got to go through 14 rounds to get to the end. So somebody's like, so if you hit one 5,000 yards, I mean, pick a yardage, right? And you're 100 yards past everybody, it really doesn't mean you're going to win. In fact, it doesn't have anything to do with whether you're going to win. So being consistently long, let's say just 380 balls, not 420 balls, but just like 380 all day long until maybe you get to the one-on-one, the match play part of it, which is your final 8 or 16, whatever it may be. Well, then you have to go for it, right? But I even found during those times when I just would put a nice solid ball out there, just a good swing, solid one out there, it usually did what John said. It put so much pressure on them that they believed they had to try harder. They had to do something because there was a number now posted out there, and they tried to do it. And so what John and I worked on a lot was just keep doing the same thing, Mike. Just keep doing the same thing. Just keep putting it in. And you know what I mean? What we finally deciphered eventually was the only time you actually have to hit the longest ball is the very last ball of the last event. That's it. That's the only one. And ironically, I won, I believe, on the second or last one. I'm not really sure because they both were killed at the last 2 balls at Nationals. They never told me. But, you're going all out for it at that point. But similar to playing golf, you have 18 holes of golf. You've got to keep putting in the fairway, keep putting on the green, keep 2-putting. And even a long drive at these speeds, there's no accuracy becomes important because let me tell you, there's people faster than me. There's always going to be somebody faster, bigger, and stronger than you. But it doesn't mean they become the champion. And becoming the champion, a lot of it has to do with not hearing noise in your brain, not thinking about your family, about the kids, how much money am I going to make? What's the crowd going to say? What about my acceptance speech? There's a whole lot of things that are noise around you. And when you can finally block out the noise, and it's something I tell to a lot of people now about noise. And noise is things that you put around you that influence you. And when you actually go up and hit a golf ball and you can really, really consciously think of your swing thoughts, like when you're going to practice, like you're just on a range and you're just remembering your swing thoughts, no matter if there's a crowd, television cameras, people around you, people cheering, music playing, if you can go up and actually remember your swing thoughts, you're probably going to win. You're probably going to win. Because what I used to do, and John knows it, I even tell him, you go up there and you see 6 or 8 balls in front of you and you kind of blank out. You completely blank out because you're like, I'm just going to kill him. If I kill him, if it happens to go in, I'll win. And quite honestly, that's not how people win. You win by remembering your thoughts, focusing on what you're doing, and just executing on it. And there's a lot of people, like I said, who are better than me. I can't even say, now I'm the best. I guess it's, a national champion. It's nice, but there are people better or more talented than me. But the mental part of it, any level of any sport, it's massive. And I was blessed to have John in my corner because this wise old man just kept going, just put the damn ball in, Mike. Just keep putting it in. Relax. Just keep putting it in. Just keep doing what you've been doing. And that's when the success started coming.
Well, that's a skill, though, too. I mean, that's as much of a skill as that.
Yes.
Yeah.
Well,
it is.
Tony,
you're right.
I'm sorry.
What was interesting, Tony, is, he was so close 2 years ago. And I said, what happened? And he goes, I got to the last round and I couldn't get one in, or I got one in, but it wasn't very good. And I was hitting it a long way and they were just keep going either way off the grid. And so we got to talking, and he goes, I go, so what were you thinking? And he goes, well, I'm going to go up there and I'm just going to show these guys that I can kill the ball. And I said, and so what happened? Well,
how'd that work for you? In other words, right? Yeah.
Did not work well.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
Here's
so
your fourth place year check.
Yeah.
So he wasn't keeping it on the grid, but he was still hitting it a long way. And so we talked about it, and I said, well, you know, there's something happening here when you try to kill the ball. I said, you know, you're long enough, and don't focus on, you know, beating those guys and beating their brains in. Focus on what it's going to take to win, and it seems to me, and that, you know, obviously I'd never been in long drive, but it seemed to me if you're long and in the grid, you've got a better chance, even if you're not quite as long, compared to guys who may be 10, 15 yards longer, but they're not, which was what Mike was doing, but they're not in the grid. So if you're not in the grid, you can't win, no matter how far you hit the ball. And that's when I think things started to click.
Yeah, so he's right, because
yeah.
I didn't mean to catch up, but I will tell you what this is like. You remember when they'd say Tiger Woods, when he was in his prime, he'd come to the golf course, feel it out, and go, I think I need to shoot 65 today, right? When Tiger would think that way. I started to do that long drive. I started thinking, all right, the longest ball was at 390. The shortest ball is at 350. If I just go 375 all day long and make it to the end of this thing, now I got my chance to win.
Yeah.
And so that's kind of how I started thinking about events, was who gives two craps, you know, if you hit it, you know, so far past everybody and blah, blah, blah. Because I will tell you, in our sport, the number of times, and I was absolutely guilty of this, where you would leave the event and you know what you would say? You would say, well, I didn't win, but I had the longest ball of the event. Right? And meanwhile, the other guys got the trophy and the check. And so, you know, I give John a lot of credit. You know, you have to reel yourself in, because I think the talent, I mean, he could have vouched for us. The talent's always been sitting there, no matter when I was an opener, now the Masters. It's always been there to win. You know, but the mental part and club fitting and all that stuff, they all play into the whole thing. And, you know, I was kind of a selfish person, meaning I thought I could do this. I could build the club. I didn't matter who did that. I didn't need any help. And you know what? You find out from anybody who's any good at anything at this high of a level, you start to find out you need people around you who can kind of advise you and help you and, you know, build the right clubs that won't fall apart.
Yeah.
And he's laughing because we had plenty of those in our time. They would totally be delaminated in sideways. I go, here, fix this. He's like, what the hell happened to that? I was like, I don't know. This guy over there built it for me. Yeah. So,
well, the thing about Mike is, and with equipment, is he would, you know, I have 2 souvenirs on my shelf of clubs that he cracked. And these are meant for long drives, so they're beefed up. But I had to give him my set of loft bulge and roll gauges, because when he practiced and he hit the ball so hard, eventually he'd flatten the face, and he had to know when to you know, throw a head in the trash can and put another one on.
Yeah, true.
Well, so now, what's the future? I mean, do you feel, for example, with you, Mike, that it's going to be a little easier to just be calm about it? I mean, you don't ever have to prove anything about the fact that you've won something like this. Maybe it makes it a little easier, or do you think you're going to put pressure? I'm kind of curious where you both of you sort of feel things are going. So,
Well, let's just say the future is kind of an interesting one. My goal was to be a world or national champion, and I got it, and I'm excited about that. And I've been playing a lot of golf. John's helping me with some golf clubs now, and I've shot some incredibly low numbers. So, is the Champions Tour out there? A possibility? Sure. I'd love to see that, but the future still is, doing long drive and doing my best. Will I feel pressure by doing it? No, I don't feel anymore. I mean, it's like a momentous weight that you can't imagine this sport is lifted off. And let me tell you truly why that is because if you've done something so long and dedicated so long of your life to being good at something very good, what also happens in a sport is it's kind of, picture it like rowing or chess. Nobody knows who you are. Ping pong, nobody knows who you are, right?
Yeah.
So you're the guy who's blasting balls out of ranges, and it's that smacking, Happy Gilmore guy, right?
Yeah.
Well, when you finally win, the pressure's lifted off. Now you go, hey, you got your phone on you? So they pull it out, you show them a picture, and there you are. So you get that credibility, you feel good about it, and it's wonderful. It's a wonderful thing, and I think I'm just going to continue to win. I don't think I have to change a lot in the recipe. I kind of figured out how to make the right brownie that everybody eats. So
interesting choice of words. I like that. Yeah. Yeah.
You see what I'm saying? Once you figure out what works for you, it's very important. I mean, and I'll go to the point of training. Training is very similar like that to me. I don't do thousands of exercises I did when I was younger. I have a very specific training regimen that I go through, and my body loves it. I don't get injured. I don't have problems. I always in good shape, good health. So that's good. You get the right club fitter. You get the right, mental approach. You just kind of have to do it. And like a lot of people in golf, I don't think it's any different in that sport, is you can just, start to repeat it. And I think the wins will just kind of keep coming. I mean, last year we only had 3 from COVID. And if you could laugh, I went final and I was second, final first, and then final and I was second. So, I don't see any reason why, because the other part is, of doing anything is you size up the field when you go to events. You size up who's there, and I already know whether I'm longer than that guy, or I'll see this guy at the end. I mean, I went to the one at the Nationals, and I said, I was around the 4 guys who I know, 2 are world champs, the guys around me, and I was like, see you guys in the semis. And they kind of looked at me like, what's wrong with Bauman? Why is he saying that? And, sure enough, it was all 4 of us at the end, because all of us, you have the gifts and you're using them, and everybody's got them, and it's just going to come down to a bounce, a wind gust, something little like that. And I don't ever plan on leaving John for building any of my clubs. I mean, why would you? I mean, it took so long to get this good, and I mean, it's great. The future is great, but why leave? Why do something different when like I said, the recipe is there. Put the flour in, put the eggs in, ta-da, there's the same loaf of bread. You know what I mean? So you keep eating it, and you like it every day. That's my opinion.
How about your end, John?
Well, I think nothing is ever static, obviously. So we unlocked we found the key to unlock the door, but things, one of the only constants in life anymore is change. And so as things change, as, new shafts and new technology comes out, we're just going to have to stay on top of that and make sure that what Mike has is the best of the best.
And the best for him, right? Yeah.
And the best of the best for him. Exactly.
Yeah.
So I got to jump in. Have you ever heard of any guy so humble like John? Look at him. He's just over there, la-di-da. Look, I just do this and this, and I fix everybody at Golf Fix clubs, and everybody's got this, and I do it. He's just a talent. I mean, he's a talented guy. He's world class at it. And you know, truthfully, from my end, I always thought, and I have been. It's not ego when you've done this so many world championships to know you're kind of world class at something. But the gift was when I, got to go across John, and I had a world-class club fitter who didn't think I was, crazy, who was willing to do the things that it took to actually help me. So, yeah, he's being a humble over there, but, he's heard me F-bomb him a few times, like, who built this crap, and I would win. Yeah, so, yeah, he's a nice guy, but he's being very humble over there. A lot of people, I don't tell a lot of people. I'll tell golfers his name. You hear how I'm doing this? Yeah, I tell golfers his name, but he doesn't get called some long drivers, do you, John? Right? No, I mean, no. That's like giving up, the Fort Knox where the location is, right, and the combination. You're not doing that. You're not doing that. No. So I know I have a treasure with a club builder. So, keep it where it is. But he's humbly being gracious. He's fantastic at what he does.
Yeah. Well, you guys, this was just, I mean, I really have. I've been looking forward to getting to do this with the two of you for months, and it didn't disappoint. So, and I know everybody gets to listen to it. We'll really enjoy it. So thanks. And, and John, put a link to your website, and I know you have a website for the Ultimate Swing Trainer, Mike, isn't it? I think that's your website link these days.
That's ours, yeah, the Ultimate Swing Trainer. Yep.
Right. And, but I look forward to following a little more closer next year as we get to where all this happens, because like I said, it sort of passed me by until somewhere around December. John said, "Hey, remember? I told you this was going to happen."
He said that? Now, you're telling me the truth. Are you two pulling one over at me? He literally said I was going to win.
He told me John, you remember that conversation, don't you?
Yes. Yeah,
I mean, he did.
Wow.
He did, Mike. And it wasn't.
Hey, John,
yeah.
Go ahead.
No,
Go ahead.
He was very sincere in his belief that was going to happen.
Oh. Well, I think he's very nice, and we get to say something back to Eric Jones now, because Eric Jones told me I couldn't do something. So, no, I'm just kidding.
There you go.
Just kidding. No. What happened? What you don't know about, and John knows where this all went. Listen to this quick story. So 3 years ago, I was on a ladder 18 feet up. The ladder gave way. It literally broke, and I fell off my head. Had a double compound fracture in my left arm.
Oh my!
Hit my head on the ground. Yeah, hit my head on the ground. I was knocked out for 35 minutes. Somehow God woke me back up. A couple of surgeries later, they put my arm back together, and the doctor told me, "Don't swing a golf club again. You're going to break your arm again."
Oh, jeez.
Well, 3 years later, I'm a national champion. So don't tell me what I can't do. And the joke with Eric Jones was he told John about it, like, well, I'll never win again because of that injury. So that's why we're
pretty
we're
awesome.
Poking at Eric Jones there. Yeah. And Eric's a world champion. So I'm not,
yeah.
I don't say much about Eric, and I love him. Awesome guy.
Well, thanks, guys. I think it's probably a good time to end it here, but I look forward to making this live next Tuesday. It's going to be great.
The Golf Improvement Podcast is sponsored by Tony Wright and Game Improvement Golf. Tony creates exceptional golf clubs. You shoot lower scores.
Mike and John, thanks for taking the time to talk with me and my listeners. It was great to hear how John's club expertise helped you to take your long drive game to the ultimate level of success, but also to learn how he helped you with developing mental skills that played a big role in your success. I put links in the show notes to John's Dead Solid Perfect website and also to Mike's Ultimate Swing Trainer website. And I can't wait to follow your success in 2021, Mike. My shout out today is a little different. Every time that I finish recording an interview, I immediately check to be sure that the audio recording worked correctly. Well, this one, when I pulled it up in my Adobe Audition software, did not load. There was a problem with it. It broke my heart because I knew this was a great interview, and the spontaneity of their discussion wouldn't be the same if we had to redo it. Fortunately, with some help from Adobe Audition support, I was able to find an app that allowed me to read and listen to the interview, and then I could then resave it, and all of us get to reap the benefits. Well, that's it for today. One amazing new interview down, another one coming soon. I love getting to share information from smart golf experts with you. See you in 2 weeks. Take care and stay safe.
Game Improvement Golf, your source of information and inspiration to become an exceptional golfer now. www.gameimprovementgolf.com